The sea had a habit of pretending. Every morning it wore the same face. Quiet waves, pale mist, soft light breaking over the horizon. To strangers, it looked peaceful, almost kind. But the Skelmar tribe had lived beside it for generations, and they knew better. The sea never changed its nature, only its timing. That morning began like every other. No alarms, no panic, no urgency. And that was exactly why the tribe survived. Along the narrow shoreline, fishermen knelt beside their boats, repairing nets with fingers hardened by salt and years of repetition. Each knot was tied the same way it had been tied 1,000 times before, slow, precise, unthinking. Habits lived deeper than thought here. Further inland, women tended low smoking fires, hanging strips of fish on wooden racks. The smoke rose straight into the air, thin and controlled. Even fire had rules in Skelmar. Nothing was allowed to grow wild. Children moved through the forest paths in single file, barefoot, stepping only where their elders had taught them. They did not speak. They did not laugh loudly. Their games were quiet ones: balance, memory, patience. An outsider might have mistaken this silence for weakness. The Skelmar elders knew it was the opposite. High above the village, carved into the cliff like part of the stone itself, stood Eric I. He had stood there every sunrise for 40 years. Same place, same stance, same direction. His right eye had been taken long ago. No one remembered the full story anymore, but his remaining eye saw farther than most men could imagine. Not because it was sharper, but because it was trained. Every morning, Eric watched the horizon. Not because he expected danger every day, but because expectation was irrelevant. Watching was simply what he did. A habit formed long before fear had any voice. The wind shifted slightly. Eric felt it before he saw anything. The gulls went silent. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just wrong. His fingers tightened on his staff. Far out on the water, where sea met sky, something dark interrupted the pale line of morning light. A shape, then another, then more. Eric did not shout. He did not run. He lifted his staff and struck the stone once. The sound echoed, low and hollow, travelling down paths, carved into the cliff itself. Below, the tribe reacted instantly, not with fear, with movement. Fires were smothered with sand, not water. Water hissed too loudly. Canoes were slid into narrow rock cuts hidden by brush. Nets were dropped and forgotten without complaint. Fish racks collapsed inward with practiced speed. Children vanished into the forest like mist. Women disappeared into caves masked by moss and shadow. Men melted into trees, reeds, and rock. Within minutes, the village became a ghost. From the sea, the Vikings saw nothing unusual. Their longships cut through the water like blades, sleek, fast, confident. Dragon heads rose at the prow, carved mouths open, as if laughing. Shields lined the sides, painted in red, black, and bone. White patterns meant to inspire terror. The Vikings were used to screams. They were used to chaos. They were used to villages that broke the moment fear arrived, as their ships scraped against the shore. Boots hit sand. Axes rested easily on shoulders. Some laughed. Others argued over who would claim the first kill. "This place is already dead," one of them said, kicking cold ashes. Another spat. Cowards ran. Their leader, Hrothgar frowned. He had raided enough coasts to recognize something felt wrong. Too clean. No footprints. No overturned boats. No dropped tools. Villagers fled in panic, left scars. This one looked erased. Hrothgar raised his hand. "Spread out. Quiet." The men obeyed, mostly. Habits are hard to break. They searched huts, flipped tables, tore thatched roofs apart. Nothing. No food. No people. No blood. Then the forest answered. A horn sounded. Not loud. Not sharp. Deep. As if the earth itself had exhaled. The Vikings froze. From the trees came movement. But no clear targets. A spear flew from the shadows, striking a shield, then vanished. Another struck a man's thigh and disappeared before he could scream, "Form up." Hrothgar shouted they tried, but the Skelmar never stayed. They struck, withdrew, and vanished again. Every Viking charge met empty space. Every pursuit led deeper into unfamiliar ground. The forest was not wild, it was trained. Paths curved subtly to break formation. Roots waited where feet would land. Narrow clearings forced men into single lines. Every step favoured those who knew the land by habit, not memory. The Vikings fought bravely and uselessly. They were strong men trained from youth to raid, kill, and conquer. Their habits were built around dominance, loudness, speed, overwhelming force. But those habits betrayed them here. A Viking swung his axe at a shadow, nothing. Another turned to shout, and a stone struck his temple, not thrown in anger, thrown with precision. From behind a fallen log, Kara of the Silent Hand waited. She had practiced throwing stones since childhood, not as a weapon, but as control. Hit here. Then move. Never strike twice from the same place. Her breathing never changed. Nearby, Torin the Weaver pulled a cord hidden beneath leaves. A weighted net dropped, tangling 3 men before they could react. The tribe did not rush to finish them. They waited. Waiting was the hardest habit to learn. The Vikings grew angry. Anger led to shouting. Shouting led to separation. Separation led to death. By midday, the raiders had lost men without ever seeing their killers clearly. Blood stained the forest floor, dark and quiet. Hrothgar realized the truth too late. These people are hunters, he growled. And we are the prey. From the cliffs, Eric watched smoke rise, not from Skelmar fires, but from Viking torches. He lowered his staff again. Once, that sound meant phase 2. The tribe shifted, attacks slowed, distance increased. The Vikings felt watched but untouched. Every sound made them jump. Every shadow felt alive. Fear crept in, not sudden fear, slow fear, the kind that grows when habits fail. As evening fell, the Vikings retreated to the shore, wounded, exhausted, confused. They had burned nothing, taken nothing, conquered nothing. Around their fires whispers began. These forests move. I saw eyes in the ground. They don't sleep. Hrothgar stared into the flames, fists clenched. He had faced armies, but never this. Never an enemy that did not rush, boast, or break. Across the darkness, hidden stone and tree, the Skelmar tribe waited, calm, silent, uncelebrating. Because this was not victory yet. It was only the beginning, and they would follow their habits to the end. Night fell without ceremony. The forest did not darken all at once. It closed in layer by layer, as if the land itself were folding its eyes. The Skelmar tribe felt the change long before the Vikings did. Darkness was not an enemy to them. It was an old companion. The Vikings, however, feared it. On the beach, Hrothgar Iron, hand-ordered torches lit in a wide circle. Flames leapt high, bright and aggressive, cracking loudly as resin caught fire. Light gave the Vikings comfort. Light made them feel powerful. It also made them visible. From the trees, the Skelmar watched without speaking. Faces were marked with ash and earth, not for war, but for blending. Their breathing slowed in unison. Children had been taught this rhythm before they were taught words. Breathe in. Count 3 heartbeats. Breathe out. Fear had a rhythm too. If you let it control your breath, it controlled everything. Eric won. I crouched on the high ridge, his staff resting across his knees. He listened more than he looked. The Vikings talked too much. They always did. Loud voices. Laughter that cracked too quickly. Jokes that tried and failed to hide unease. They bleed like men. One Viking said, gripping his bandaged arm. Then why don't they fight like men? Another answered. That question spread like sickness. The Skelmar did not respond. They waited. Waiting was their oldest habit. Hrothgar knew something was wrong when his men stopped sharpening their weapons. Strong warriors always prepared for the next fight. But now they stared into fire, eyes darting to the forest at every sound. He stood. We strike at dawn. Burn everything. Flush them out. No one cheered. That silence terrified him more than screams ever could. That night, sleep came in fragments. A scream tore through the camp. A Viking bolted upright, then collapsed, an arrow in his throat. No horn. No war cry. The arrow had come from darkness and returned to it. The Skelmar never rushed in. They never needed to. They struck once, then vanished. Again and again. Each attack followed the same pattern. One sound, one loss, silence. The Vikings began to imagine attacks even when none came. A branch snapping became footsteps. Wind became whispers. Shadows became shapes with teeth. The tribe let them imagine. Imagination is sharper than steel. By the second night, food ran low. Water skins leaked, slashed carefully where they wouldn't be noticed until too late. A habit learned over years. Damaged the support, not the soldier. A young Viking named Leif broke first. I saw them. He whispered, rocking back and forth. They don't blink. No one laughed. By morning, 2 men were gone. No blood, no bodies. Just empty bedrolls leading into the trees. Hrothgar roared in rage, smashing a shield against a rock. "Cowards! Face me!" The forest answered with silence. Silence was louder than any roar. From her hiding place, Kara watched the leader carefully. She had learned long ago that habit revealed weakness. Hrothgar paced the same path again and again, always turning his head the same way near the fire. She marked the spot. That night, the tribe changed their pattern. They did nothing. No arrows, no drums, no horns. The Vikings waited for the attack that never came. Minutes stretched into hours. Muscles remained tense. Eyes burned. Hands shook. This was the most dangerous habit to break, the expectation of chaos. Sleep never came. By dawn, men argued. Some demanded retreat. Others demanded blood. Hrothgar tried to hold command, but authority collapses when habits fail. At noon, the Skelmar struck again, but not with weapons. They let the Vikings see them, just for a moment. Figures appeared on the ridge, still and silent, faces painted like spirits. Then they stepped back and vanished. The message was clear. We are here whenever we choose. Panic spread. That evening, the wind carried whispers, not words, just breath. The tribe had learned how to shape sound through hollow logs and stone cuts. To the Vikings, it sounded like voices everywhere and nowhere. A man ran screaming into the surf. No one stopped him. On the 4th night, Hrothgar woke to find his sword missing. It lay 10 steps away, stuck upright in the sand. Not stolen, returned, a message. He fell to his knees. Strong men do not fear death. They fear loss of control. At dawn, the Vikings fled. Not in formation. Not with pride. They ran. Some dropped armor to move faster. Others shoved comrades aside. Ships were launched in chaos, oars colliding, commands ignored. One ship overturned. No Skelmar attacked. They didn't need to. From the cliffs, Arik watched the sea swallow the last of the invaders. His staff rested heavily in his hands. The habit of watching did not end with victory. Children gathered behind him. "Why didn't we kill them all?" one asked. Arik turned slowly. Because fear is heavier than death, and habits are stronger than swords. The tribe returned to their routines. Fires were relit. Nets were repaired. Paths were swept clean. By sunset, the village looked unchanged, but the world beyond it was not. Sailors would whisper of a coast where warriors vanished and forests. The Vikings would never return, not because they were defeated in battle, but because their habits were broken. Finel morel poir of hebedai. True strength is not reaction. It is preparation repeated until calm replaces fear. The Vikings trained for violence. The Skelmar trained for control, and control endured.